Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. I guess good afternoon. It's not 11, it's 12. So good afternoon. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully, you guys had a good Monday. Hopefully, you're having a good Tuesday. We're going to talk some NFL today, and we are going to we'll look at some baseball too. I mean, the San Francisco Giants just disaster yesterday. Lose 1-0. How I don't understand that. 1-0. They had the bases loaded once and scored 0 runs. They had guys on I think they had a guy on third a couple times, couldn't get him home. Just disaster class from the Giants yesterday. That was unfortunate, but that's all right. We move. Today we're going to talk NFL. We've got some storylines that have been rolling. Stephon Diggs, all that stuff that was going on there. And then yesterday, like basically while we were on stream, Frank Ragnow out of nowhere retires for the Detroit Lions. That's a big loss for them. I don't know. He hasn't missed a ton of games, so it's really tough to go look and see and take anything from, the Lions' performances without him because it's just not any sort of a big sample size. Like when we think of other situations like this, there's none that really stick out to me. But like, for example, so Dallas, obviously, losing some of their linemen, that is a little bit of a different situation. Honestly, like those guys didn't retire, but you could at least go back and check. There was larger sample size of them not having a healthy line and how it impacted, Dak Prescott in the Cowboys' offensive performance. Frank Ragnow, retires because he's been hurt. And I mean, he's been a warrior. Like, if he's as hurt as he claims he is, like causing him to retire, it's pretty incredible that he's played 16, 15, and 16 games in the last 3 seasons. So we don't really have any, data to take of the Lions' performance without him. But yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a big loss for the Lions. He's very, very good. One of arguably the best center in the league and very good in run blocking as well. And we know that the Lions have had a great rushing attack in recent seasons with, David Montgomery, even back when they had DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and then, this past season, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, very, very good rushing offense. I see why Pats have buyer's remorse. They definitely overpaid. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, like the off the field stuff aside, it doesn't bother me because it's a receiver. It's not like he's a leader of your team, but it's like you probably don't want the distractions when you're a good team. The Patriots are not a good team. They're a young team. So you probably still don't want the distractions even then. But it's kind of to be expected. I mean, if you know anything about Stephon Diggs and like, it's not shocked. Like I wasn't shocked to see the video. I don't really know what it impacts. It's not like I saw there was like a report they were going to cut him. That's not happening. He's not going to get cut for that. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the Patriots getting him in the first place, but I digress. It is what it is. He looked fine though, like running and stuff yesterday, coming off the ACL. So I think that's good. Shows how impressive Kelsey longevity is. Oh yeah, 100%, Ryan. 100%. Definitely, it's crazy. I mean, those guys on the line are just taking so many hits and stuff. I'm sure quite a few of them have, considered retirement that we don't even know about. I mean, this seemingly came out of nowhere, but it shows how, hurt he's been, even though he's played all these games. Pretty crazy. All right. So we're going to go through my power rankings. This is first run. I'll do another run. I'll probably do another run the first week of July, and then I'll do another run first week of August, and then leading into the season, we'll have data to go off of, and we'll be doing this weekly kind of updates to the power rankings. So starting off, we'll go in reverse order. And if you guys have any thoughts on this, if you disagree with anything, you guys can let me know in the chat. I'd love to discuss it. Worst team in the league for me, New Orleans Saints. Don't think it's close. They have quarterbacks retiring to avoid playing on their team. Just a disaster season coming for the Saints, I think. I don't see. So I wrote it above here with starting in the 26 range. It seems like every year one of these bottom of the barrel teams surprises people and ends up making the wild card round. That happens almost every single year. I would be extremely shocked if that team was the Saints this year, because they're going to have very suspect quarterback play, whether it's Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shugg. I don't know. It's going to be suspect. And then their defense is not great. Offensive line is not great. They tried to address it in the offseason. We'll see how it looks. But yeah, the Saints are just going to be flat out terrible, I think. 31, I have the Tennessee Titans. Again, just a rough team, top to bottom. They obviously took Cam Ward #1 overall this past draft. So this year for them will be, trying to figure out, is Cam Ward going to be their franchise quarterback moving forward? I feel bad for Cam Ward because he's in a very tough situation with the team just being terrible. And I would say a pretty severe lack of playmaking. I mean, we have like an aging Calvin Ridley. And yeah, I mean, Treylon Burks really hasn't turned it into anything. If we look at their depth chart, I mean, the running back situation's okay with Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears. I think that's good. But, I mean, this receiver core is a disaster. Calvin Ridley is – how old is Calvin Ridley at this point? I mean, Calvin Ridley is 30 years old, and as a bigger body guy, you just don't know. He had an okay season last year. He had 64 catches for 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. Obviously, he was dealing with really bad quarterback play there as well. But, aging Calvin Ridley, aging Tyler Lockett, who they brought in. Treylon Burks has really not turned into anything. Van Jefferson is kind of just a guy at this point. I do like Elik Iomanor, who they drafted. I think he has potential to be pretty good. So I like that pickup for them, but just a rough skill position grouping, top to bottom. The team as a whole is not great either. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but big question mark for the Titans this year is just be figuring out if Cam Ward is the guy or not. At 30, I have the New York Giants. Could be a fun offense, but I doubt we see Dart this year. And if we do, it's probably going to be late. Now, I don't know what quarterbacks are going to make the roster here. I think Russ is going to start the season. They still have they brought in Jameis Winston. They brought back Tommy DeVito. And then you have Jackson Dart. I just don't know how motivated they are to play Dart this year. I think they would like to ice him and redshirt him if possible, but it's the nature of the NFL. You're going to want to see these guys on the field. So if they have a really bad record, by the time we get to December or, late November, do they just pull the plug and just go to Dart? They could. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns here. So if we end up getting some Jackson Dart action with Malik Neighbors and some of those other guys, could be a fun offense to watch. But overall, I have zero expectations for this team, and I would be pretty surprised if they were one of the bad teams that end up making the playoffs as well. I don't have high expectations for the Giants this year. 29, I have the Jets, kind of the same boat as the Giants. I mean, they have Justin Fields. I didn't mind their draft. I thought they had an okay draft, but, we've never seen Aaron Glenn as a head coach, and there's just some question marks here. Could Justin Fields outperform expectations with like Garrett Wilson? Maybe. Definitely we'll see, but as of right now, don't really have high expectations for the New York Jets in the 2025 season. At number 28, I have the Cleveland Browns, another team I have just essentially zero faith in. We're going to see them play a lot of quarterbacks this year. They're going to be in evaluation mode all season to try and figure out if they need to take a quarterback with one of their 2 first-round picks in the 2026 NFL draft. They have a nightmare schedule, just a brutal, brutal schedule for the Cleveland Browns this year. I think this is going to be a 2 or 3 win team, to be honest with you. And I put them at 28 power rankings wise because they do have more of a roster than some of these teams below them. Like they have Myles Garrett, they have Denzel Ward. They have an overall decent defense. It's just their offense is so suspect. And I don't know what we're going to get out of, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel. Whenever these guys get on the field, it's just an unknown. So I have them at 28. Honestly, you could have the Browns lower. Don't have much faith in them. And these bottom 5 teams here are just the true bottom of the barrel, in my opinion. Once we get into this range, I think we could get into some of those teams that could maybe surprise people and make the playoffs. Starting with the Carolina Panthers at 27. You guys know I like Bryce Young. He played very well down the stretch of last season. He's got some playmakers, Adam Thielen, Tedero McMillan. The running back situation was fine with Chuba Hubbard. And I don't hate some of the moves they made in the offseason. So, and I think Dave Canales is a good coach. So could the Panthers surprise some people and maybe slide in a wild card spot? I think so, because they're kind of the 3rd team in this division after Tampa Bay and Atlanta. But would it really shock you if the Panthers had more wins than the Falcons? I mean, we're not going to project that now, but at the end of the season, if I told you the Panthers have more wins than the Falcons, would you really be that surprised? I really wouldn't. So, and the Saints are just terrible. So they're going to get by because of their division. And I think they have a potential to outperform expectations. The same can be said for the Las Vegas Raiders at 26. The offense is going to be great. There's no denials there. Geno Smith is underrated and has very, very good indoor versus outdoor home splits, or just splits in general. So it's big for him being able to play home games indoors. And if I just look at the Raiders' schedule, how many games does he have indoors? Let's see. So all of his home games are going to be indoors. We've got an at Indy, that's indoors. We have an at the Chargers, that's indoors, obviously. At Houston is going to be indoors. So, yeah. So, quite a few indoor games for the Raiders this season. Geno Smith has been great indoors in his career. He has Brock Bowers. He has Jacoby Myers, who's underrated. He has Ashton Genty now at running back. Like, the offense is going to be really fun, I think. I just don't know what we're going to get out of the defense. They at least have a game-breaking type player in Max Crosby. Pete Carroll is a short-term option at coach. They're bringing him in to see what they can get out of this team this season. So would I be shocked if the Raiders snuck into that wild card race late in the season? I probably wouldn't, but we'll see how that goes. At 25, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Really, really one of the tougher teams to figure out for me right now. They're going to get by because their division isn't great. Any of Jacksonville, Indy, Houston, like those teams are all going to be in the mix because of their division. But I just don't know, what we're getting out of the Colts. Will Anthony Richardson take a step forward, or will Daniel Jones be starting by the time we get to the middle of the season? Both of these are potential outcomes, and it is just an unknown. So one of the tougher teams to figure out for me are the Indianapolis Colts, who I have at number 25. At number 24, just above them, another team in their division, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, it's a lock that this team's offense is going to be fun to watch. Liam Cohen coming in, manning the offense. We have Trevor Lawrence back healthy. We have Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. Shouldn't be legal to have those guys on the same offensive side of the ball. Offense is going to be fun. This is going to be a great red zone team. You're going to want to see them when they have the ball. Can their defense and offensive line hold up? I don't know. I put them at 24 for now. They could outperform and get in the mix because of their division, like I just said with the Colts. So, there is some upside for the Jags, but I have them at 24 right now. At 23, I have the New England Patriots. I'm not the biggest Mike Vrabel guy, but I do like Drake May. I think they hit on Drake May. I think he's going to be their franchise quarterback. I love some of the moves that they made in the offseason drafting, Will Campbell and some of the attention they paid to the offensive line. Didn't love the Stefan Diggs move, but regardless, they need play. They're pretty desperate for playmakers at this point in time. So, Patriots have upside. Again, division's not super strong. Like Miami's kind of in an unknown spot right now. The Jets are terrible. So you're really just competing with the Bills. So there's upside for one of these other AFC East teams to get in the wild card mix, in my opinion. So I have the Patriots at 23, and I have them above, the Jets pretty firmly, and I have them right next to the Miami Dolphins. I would not be shocked if the New England Patriots are better than the Miami Dolphins this season. I wrote it right here in the blog. Miami is the toughest team for me to figure out right now for the upcoming season. We have Tyreek Hill coming off his worst season as a pro. He's 31 years old. He's getting older. I don't think Jalen Ramsey will be on the team by the time the season starts. I think he's going to get traded. I've been saying that for over a month now. They just lost Terran Armstead to retirement. Like, these are some key players for a top-heavy team to begin with, and I just don't know. Kind of feels like their window's already closed, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I would not be shocked if the Patriots are the second-best team in the AFC East, though, personally, right now. We'll see what happens, leading up to the season. At 21, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Kind of tough to figure out as well for me. I think Dak with CD and Pickens is going to be really, really fun. I think that you're going to see a lot of CD Lamb in the slot with George Pickens there. And that could equate to some fun games. I think that could equate to some fantasy goodness for sure. Kind of in a tough spot now in the division, though. I think they're firmly behind, obviously, both Philly and then Washington, two teams that were in the conference championship game last year. So I would put Dallas pretty firmly third in this division. I don't know where the upside is for them in terms of playoffs, but they could surprise some people. It's the Cowboys. You kind of just never know. At number 20 of the Atlanta Falcons. I didn't love their draft in terms of what they traded to move up, but I did love their draft in addressing, one of the worst pass rushing groups in all of the NFL last year. Like, they made a point to attack that. I think they did good by that. I still think Michael Penix could be good. You have tons of weapons on offense there. The offense is going to be good. It's the questions of, can the defense right the ship? They made a conscious effort to try and improve it. I would put them firmly number 2 in this division right now behind Tampa, and there's definitely, wild card upside or potential for the Atlanta Falcons this season, in my opinion. Next, once we get inside of this top 20, these are some teams I'm going to be higher on than consensus, both Arizona and Chicago. Arizona, I'm going to be way higher on than a lot of people I would think. I don't know of many people that would have them, at 19 right now. But I'm really high on their coaching staff. I think they have one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL. They made a big effort to fix the defensive side of the ball in the offseason, which I like. The offense is going to be fine. Kyler Murray, Marv Harrison Jr., the running back situation with Connor and Benson is still fine. And they have other playmakers on offense as well when you think of like Trey McBride and some of their supplementary receivers. So I'm high on the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals could surprise some people. I think the Cardinals could get in that wild card mix firmly. Same can be said for the Chicago Bears at number 18. I literally wrote it right here in the blog. When I'm looking at these teams at this point of the offseason, I'm looking at what personnel grouping these teams improved the most, whether it be their pass rush like the Atlanta Falcons, whether it be the offensive line like the Patriots or some of those other teams put a lot of focus on. The most important position, in my opinion, outside of quarterback, offensive line is important as well, but the coaching staff is critical for team success, especially when the team has a young quarterback. The Chicago Bears improved their coaching staff better than anyone in the league, getting rid of what they had prior and bringing in Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is going to be critical for the development of Caleb Williams. They have players. The Chicago Bears have players, both on defense and offense. There's no reason they were as bad as they were last year. They can take a big step forward this year with that improved coaching. So I have them at number 18. Really tough division, though. when you think of the Lions, Vikings, Packers. All four of these teams in this division could be good this year, which is pretty crazy. I put the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 17. Feels like a great spot for them. They've just been in this range every year post triple Bs. They're going to do the same thing they do every year. They're going to win 8 or 9 games. They're going to sneak in the playoffs, and they're going to get destroyed by Buffalo or Baltimore or whatever actual team they play in the playoffs. They're going to get destroyed. The Pittsburgh Steelers, a once prominent franchise, stuck in perpetual mediocrity right now. Without a franchise quarterback. And I don't really know what the answers is. I don't know how much longer Mike Tomlin's going to be able to just tread water, winning 8, 9, 10 games and getting destroyed in the playoffs every single year. And I don't really understand the team philosophy at this point. I'm not the biggest Arthur Smith fan. They trade away George Pickens. They bring in DK Metcalf. Then they come out and they're like, we want to get another supplementary weapon to go with DK Metcalf. You just had George Pickens. So I don't really know I don't understand really what they're doing, but they don't have a quarterback, and that's all that matters to me. They're going to be completely mid once again. I have the Seattle Seahawks at 16. Another team I'm higher on than consensus. I was high on Seattle coming into last season, if you guys remember that. I really like their coaching staff. I'm a big fan of Mike McDonald. They were close. They were in the playoff mix late in the season. The last 2 weeks just burned them out. I think they'll be improved this year. I like the changes that they made at quarterback. I don't know how much Sam Darnold we're going to see, though. I would not be shocked to see Jalen Milroe start much sooner than anyone anticipates. And you guys know I'm a big Jalen Milroe fan. I think that adds to the overall upside of the team. They brought in Cooper Kupp. You guys know I like Jackson Smith-Njigba a lot. So I'm probably a little bit higher than consensus on the Seattle Seahawks. Number 15, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to be lower on them than consensus. I would highly doubt anyone that was making power rankings has Cincy as low as 15, but that's where I put them. They did not make a single move that moves the needle for me this offseason. I think they had a terrible offseason. They're dealing with this drama with Trey Hendrickson as well. I feel bad for Joe Burrow because if you're sitting there and you're just talking out NFL teams, if you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on your team, you should be in the Super Bowl mix every single year. And the fact of the matter is, the Bengals really haven't been in the Super Bowl mix since they went and lost in the Super Bowl. And I don't know, I don't know how they fix this because their defense has fallen off a cliff. It's been absolutely terrible. They're not motivated to pay anybody, and it costs them money. They have to give Jamar Chase an even bigger contract than they would if they would have just paid him 2 years ago. It's such a weird situation with the Bengals, and I feel bad, honestly, but they did literally nothing in the offseason that, gets my attention. They had arguably the worst offseason of any team, in my opinion. And they weren't even, they were dealing with some injuries and stuff, but I think for fantasy, they're going to be great. You're going to want Burrow, Chase Brown is going to be an absolute star in fantasy football again this year. You're going to want these guys on your team. But for real life football, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't think that they're in the Super Bowl mix, even though they have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, which is pretty crazy to say. At 14, I have the Denver Broncos. I'm very high on the Broncos coming into the season. Sean Payton has essentially just recreated his New Orleans Saints teams with this team, if you look at the composition of the team. And I think their defense is going to be unbelievable. So I'm very, very high on Denver. I think they're a lock and load playoff team this year, barring injury stuff. At number 13, I put Tampa. So I would say outside the top 10 or 11 is where I would probably cut off the true Super Bowl contenders. But Tampa's in that mix. They're a playoff team. Credit to Baker Mayfield, who, if you guys think back, there was a time where we didn't know if Baker Mayfield was going to be in the NFL anymore. He gets traded from the Browns. He flames out in the Panthers. He was one and done in LA. We didn't know how much more Baker Mayfield would provide for us. And he has matured a lot. He played fantastic last season. Led them to the playoffs again. So I think Tampa is a lock and load playoff team. They're the best team in this division. I like the moves they made on defense this offseason. I loved the Emeka Ibuka pick. Dealing with the unknown of Chris Godwin's knee injury, Mike Evans, bigger body receiver that's getting older as well. I love Emeka Ibuka. I think he's the safest receiver in this draft in terms of I know for a fact he's going to be a good NFL receiver. I am as high as anybody could be on Emeka Ibuka. So Tampa Bay had a great offseason. I think they're firmly back in the playoff mix. Don't know if I'd put them in the Super Bowl mix, but they're right back, in the playoff mix. I would agree, Guru. It's just like when their defense, when they went to the Super Bowl, the Bengals defense was good. Like it was objectively good. And then you have Joe Burrow on offense, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They had Joe Mixon at the time. Like they had a good offense and a good defense. Their defense is not good anymore. It's really bad. And they play in a tough division. It's just it's like a weird situation as a whole. Houston at number 12. This is a team I was pretty low on coming into last season. Willing to buy back in on them this year. Thought they had a great offseason. Completely. CJ Stroud had such a good rookie season and then really, really struggled last year. I thought they did great, just completely overhauling it. Let's bring in new play caller, new fresh offensive ideas, completely overhauled the offensive line. They got rid of Laramie Tunsil. They're like, we're going to rebuild this offensive line. We're going to rebuild this offense philosophy. They have playmakers. Nico Collins. We're probably not going to see Tank Dell much, if at all, this year. But Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Noel, the guys that they drafted from Iowa State. I'm willing to buy back in on Houston. I think they're firmly the best team in the AFC South. They're going to be in the playoffs, and what they do from there is up to them. At number 11, I have San Francisco. I honestly think I could put San Francisco as high as like number 8. Even though they had such a bad year last year, I am willing to buy back in on San Fran. Brock Purdy has proved to me he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm willing to say that. He just had a season where he averaged over 8 yards per attempt, playing with as limited of playmakers as you can play. Christian McCaffrey hurt all season, a lost season for him. Deebo Samuel was banged up all season. Brandon Ayuk was banged up all season. I'm a big Brock Purdy fan. As it currently stands, they have a very favorable schedule this year, very easy schedule. I think San Fran is going to be back in the playoff mix. They've tried to address the pass rush outside of Nick Bosa. I think they did a good job doing that. They just made another trade yesterday to get Bryce Huff. So I'm back in on San Fran. I'm going to be very, very high on them this season. At number 10, so we're into the top 10 now, Los Angeles Chargers. I would say first season with Jim Harbaugh was a success. They're going to try and build off that. They've got the offense set with a great quarterback, Justin Herbert. They completely overhauled their rushing attack, which is important when you think about, a Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman offense. That's an offense that wants to run the ball. So, I think they did good bringing in Najee Harris, drafting Omari and Hampton. Chargers are a good team, and I think they're going to be, right back in that playoff mix. Looking for Ladd McConkey to take another big leap as well. I think Ladd McConkey is one of the best receivers in football. There is nobody in the world that was higher on him than me coming out of the draft, and I feel like we got vindicated with that. He had a great rookie season. At number 9, I have the Green Bay Packers. I can't figure the Packers out, to be honest with you. They're a good team. I feel like they should be better, though. I didn't like the Matthew Golden pick personally. I was lower on him than pretty much anyone. So I didn't really like taking him in the first round. I thought if you're going to take a first round receiver for the first time in like 20 years, having it be Matthew Golden was a little bit lackluster to me. But I like Jordan Love. They're going to be back in the playoff mix. We'll see what happens. Really tough division, though. Number 8 could be the final ride of the Los Angeles Rams. This could be the final ride for Matthew Stafford with Sean McVay in LA. Their defense was great last season. They hit on some of those draft picks. Jared Verse, for example, they were like a possession away from taking out the Super Bowl champions. So let's just paint that picture. Let's say the Rams were driving with the ball to go win the game against the Eagles. What happens if the Rams win that game? Who wins the Super Bowl? I don't know. They were right in the mix at the end of that snow game. So this could be the last ride. Defense was great. And their offense, I think Cooper Kupp to Devontae Adams is a sizable upgrade. Still have Puka Nakua. They drafted a good tight end as well. So Rams are going to be right back in the Super Bowl mix this year for me. Number 7, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I'm probably a little bit higher on them than most other people, but I'm fine with that. I have high expectations for J.J. McCarthy in this Kevin O'Connell system. I think he fits perfectly in it. I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. We know the defense is good. We know the playmakers on offense are good. I think the Vikings are going to be one of the best teams in the league and competing for that number 1 overall seed in the NFC again. And now we get into like the obvious teams. Number 6, Washington Commanders. Has to be the biggest jump from like 2024 preseason power rankings to 2025 preseason power rankings, coming off a conference championship game. I do think he can avoid a CJ Stroud-like sophomore slump because of the kind of system and players around him. I think the Commanders are going to be very good again this season and right back in the Super Bowl mix. At number 5, I put the Lions. I don't think we can overstate the loss of Ben Johnson, and then they just lost Frank Ragnow yesterday as well. Still going to be a very, very good team, but I don't think we have any reason to just assume they're going to be able to replicate how optimal and good Ben Johnson's play calling was. So they're just outside the top 4 for me, but they're still going to be very good. At number 4, I put the Baltimore Ravens. I think you could debate the Ravens and the Bills as the best AFC team. The Ravens, I love how their defense played down the stretch. We just haven't seen them get over the hump yet in the playoffs. Same can be said for the Bills. Like, these teams just keep beating themselves when they get in these close games against the Chiefs. Which one of them is going to change that? I don't know. But the Ravens are going to be right back as a top NFL team this season. I put the Chiefs number 3. You know, they haven't been the Chiefs of old, but that hasn't mattered when you have, Mahomes and Andy Reid on your team. They will probably once again be way above expectation in close one-score games because of that entire situation. And yeah, until somebody they've hosted or played in the AFC Championship game every single year of Patrick Mahomes' tenure as quarterback. Until someone changes that, I'm going to keep putting them this high up. Again, number 2, I have the Bills. You can debate the Bills or Ravens here. The Bills, on one hand, have gotten lucky in recent seasons. They haven't had a ton of like key offensive injuries. They've ran pretty hot in terms of offensive injury luck. But at the same time, they still have Josh Allen, which that kind of offsets that luck. The defense, on the other hand, they've definitely dealt with defensive injuries. I thought they did a good job addressing the defensive side of the ball in the offseason. We've seen the Bills and the Ravens close over the Chiefs in these playoff games in recent years as favorites. I personally like the Ravens more than the Bills. I think their team construction, but I don't know. It's close. I put the Bills number 2. And then number 1, the Eagles. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl last year. They did lose some guys on defense, but they've addressed that in the draft in recent seasons. Their offense is back pretty much fully intact. And yeah. So that's the first look 2025 NFL Power Rankings. Those are up if you want to go read them. RollingInsights.com over on the blog. But yeah, we don't have time to go through baseball. Kind of out of time here. If I take anything for baseball, I'll tweet it out later. I'm interested in the Angels are going against Brian Bayo tonight. I'm interested in them just off the top of my head, but I'll dive into the baseball slate and I'll tweet some stuff out later. But overall, thank you guys for tuning in today. I'm pretty excited for football to be coming back. There's going to be tons of season-long content coming from me starting soon. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's stream. Steve's going to come on and maybe we'll do a little reveal of what I've been working on and what's to come, over the course of the summer. But overall, good luck with your bets tonight, fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff. And I will see everybody tomorrow at 11 a.m.